The 2020 NBA Championship will forever stand as the strangest, most unique title in league history. Played not in June, but in October. Not in front of roaring fans, but inside a silent neutral site. No packed arenas, no parades, no street celebrations, just the sound of sneakers echoing through the halls of Disney World. And yet, despite all the jokes, the memes, the Mickey Mouse ring insults, a championship banner still went up in Los Angeles. The Lakers were champions. But here's the crazy part. That very same team, the one that climbed to the top in the bubble, would completely unravel in just a few short years. To the point where you could barely recognize the roster. How do you go from champions to chaos so fast? Let's rewind. The road to the bubble title. Before the pandemic shut the world down, people forget just how good that Lakers team was. They weren't some fluke bubble squad. They were dominant. They finished as the #1 seed in the West. The Clippers were right behind them, and both teams looked destined to collide in a blockbuster Western Conference Finals. LeBron James finished second in MVP voting that year, and Anthony Davis came in sixth. Two top 10 players, healthy, locked in, and surrounded by a deep supporting cast. And that depth? It was legit. The Lakers front office had gone the mercenary route, stacking the roster with experienced vets on one-year deals. Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, Danny Green, Avery Bradley, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Sprinkle in young guys like Alex Caruso and Kyle Kuzma, and you suddenly had the perfect mix. Superstars at the top, role players who knew their jobs, and grinders off the bench. Looking back now, it's wild how much balance that team had. And once the playoffs tipped off inside the bubble, that balance showed. The playoff run. Round 1? Damian Lillard and the Blazers came in hot, stole Game 1, and had people whispering about an upset. But then the Lakers slammed the door, winning 4 straight to take the series in 5. Round 2? James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and the Rockets. A small ball experiment gone completely off the rails. Houston had traded away Clint Capela mid-season, deciding to run 5 out with no true center. For one game, it looked like it might work. But the Lakers' size, depth, and defensive focus overwhelmed them. Another gentleman's sweep, 4-1, Lakers advance. Then came the Western Conference Finals. Everyone expected an LA showdown, Lakers versus Clippers. The NBA world was salivating at the matchup. Instead, the Clippers imploded, choking away a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets. A young Nuggets team led by a 22-year-old Jamal Murray and a 24-year-old Nikola Jokic, still years away from becoming the champion version of themselves. Denver had heart, coming back from down 3-1 against both the Jazz and the Clippers. But when they ran into LeBron and AD, experience trumped youth. The Lakers won the series in 5, advancing to the finals with authority. The finals, Lakers versus Heat. The last stop, the Miami Heat. A scrappy, fearless 5 seed led by Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Goran Dragic. Miami had been on a wild run, taking down the Pacers, Bucks, and Celtics, and riding insane confidence into the finals. But here's the thing, Miami wasn't fully healthy. Dragic, their leading scorer, got hurt. Bam, their all-star defensive anchor, missed time. And against a locked-in LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the Heat just didn't have enough firepower. The Lakers overwhelmed them with their size, defense, and star power. LeBron averaged nearly a triple-double, AD was a defensive monster, and role players like Rondo, KCP, and Caruso made timely plays. The Lakers won the series 4-2, securing the franchise's 17th championship. For LeBron, it was title number 4. For AD, his first. For the Lakers, it tied them with the Boston Celtics atop the all-time leaderboard. The legacy of the bubble ring. Here's where the debates begin. Some fans dismiss it as an asterisk ring. No travel, no hostile arenas, extra rest. They call it Mickey Mouse. Others argue the opposite, that it was the purest form of basketball. No distractions. Just the game. And if anything, surviving the mental grind of isolation in the bubble made it harder, not easier. No matter where you stand, one fact is undeniable, a championship is a championship. The banner hangs forever. But in hindsight, the story of the 2020 Lakers is as much about what happened after as it is about that title itself. Because within just a couple of seasons, that balanced, veteran-heavy roster was dismantled. Depth was traded away, mistakes were made, and the team that once looked unstoppable soon found itself in turmoil. When you really look back, the 2020 Lakers weren't just champions, they were dominant. By the time they reached the finals, the series was never truly in doubt. Their size, their depth, and just enough shooting completely smothered opponents. Miami fought, but the Lakers were simply too much. The numbers prove it. 3 series ended in just 5 games. The finals went 6. Overall, 16 wins, only 5 losses. That's one of the cleaner postseason runs in NBA history. But for some reason, people don't give them the respect they deserve. Why? Simple, the bubble. No fans, no travel, neutral court. And yeah, it played into the Lakers' hands. This roster wasn't built for an 82-game marathon. It was stacked with older veterans and top-heavy stars who had their share of injury concerns. LeBron, even though still elite, was in year 17. At that age, you're always one awkward landing away from trouble. And Anthony Davis? His reputation has always been tied to injuries. That was the big what-if hovering over their season. Then came the shutdown. March to July, everything paused. By the time the NBA restarted in Orlando, the Lakers had something they rarely get: rest. Time to heal. Time to reset. And that changed everything. Suddenly, the injuries weren't a storyline. The veterans didn't have to pace themselves across a grueling schedule. The Lakers knew all they needed was 2 months of focus. 2 months of locked-in basketball. 2 months to grab a ring. And when it mattered most, they delivered. That break, that bubble, that moment, it all aligned perfectly. And the Lakers walked out with their 17th championship. In 2020, the Los Angeles Lakers looked like a juggernaut. When the NBA season was put on pause in March due to the pandemic, many teams were scrambling to stay ready. But for LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the break turned into a blessing. Both stars were banged up and carrying the usual wear and tear of a long season. But by the time the bubble in Orlando started, they were refreshed, healthy, and ready to dominate. That gave them a massive advantage compared to other contenders who would have preferred the season to continue without interruption. And once the Lakers rolled through the playoffs and secured the NBA title, it felt like the start of a new stretch of dominance. They weren't ushering in a totally new era, but they were redefining the way championship basketball could look. This wasn't small ball like the Warriors. This was bruising, physical, and overwhelming. The Lakers rebounded better than anyone. They played big lineups with Anthony Davis alongside a true center and LeBron James sliding to the 3. Even when they went small, it was LeBron and AD together in the front court, 2 of the most versatile, dominant forces in the league. Teams around the NBA started taking notice. With the Lakers' success, plus the rise of giants like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid, suddenly playing bigger didn't look outdated anymore. Size was back in style. And with LeBron, AD, Frank Vogel at the helm, and a reliable cast of role players, there was no reason to think the Lakers wouldn't continue to contend for years. But after that magical title run, the roster turned over. Veterans like JaVale McGee, Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, Danny Green, and Avery Bradley were all gone. In their place came Mark Gasol, Montrezl Harrell, and Wesley Matthews. Danny Green was swapped for Dennis Schroeder to add more playmaking. On paper, it looked like another veteran-heavy group, but in reality, the chemistry wasn't the same. The 2021 Lakers just weren't the same force. The 2020 squad thrived because they were elite defensively and dominant on the glass. They didn't need to be great offensively, they finished 11th in offensive rating, but in the playoffs, their shooting clicked at the perfect time. Role players hit timely threes, and the defense suffocated opponents. That balance made them almost impossible to beat. But the following season, the magic disappeared. The Lakers dropped to 24th in offensive rating. Their defense was still top tier, but they couldn't buy a bucket, finishing as one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. And the biggest issue was health. LeBron and AD missed large chunks of the season. Without their stars consistently on the floor, the Lakers stumbled to a 42-30 record and bowed out in the first round against the Phoenix Suns. The same bubble circumstances that helped them in 2020 hurt them in 2021. A shortened off-season, a condensed 72-game schedule, and constant injuries drained them. Instead of repeating as champions, the Lakers never won a single playoff series. Still, one thing was clear: if that roster had stayed healthy and intact, the potential for another championship run was always there. After the Lakers' 2021 playoff exit, there were calls everywhere: shake up the roster, maybe even change the coach. Fans and analysts wanted big moves, but looking back, that 2-year stretch from the 2020 bubble title to the end of the 2021 season was so chaotic and unusual that it wasn't the right time to make rash decisions. Unfortunately, that's exactly what the Lakers did. Instead of staying patient, they overreacted and completely restructured the team. The boldest move was trading for Russell Westbrook. The idea made sense on paper: pair LeBron James and Anthony Davis with a third star who could carry the offense during the regular season, keep LeBron fresh, and avoid the injury problems that plagued the team the year before. Both LeBron and AD were reportedly on board. The Lakers shipped out Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, and a first-round pick to make it happen. But from day one, it was a disaster. The spacing collapsed, Westbrook couldn't adjust to being the third option, and his lack of shooting made it nearly impossible to fit alongside LeBron and AD. On defense, he didn't provide the help they needed either. What once was a deep, balanced roster became thin and clunky. The depth problem only worsened when the Lakers let Alex Caruso walk in free agency. They chose to re-sign Talen Horton-Tucker instead of paying Caruso, largely because of money concerns after bringing in Westbrook. But that decision backfired badly. Caruso went on to thrive in Chicago and later in Oklahoma City, proving himself as the exact type of defensive, high-IQ role player the Lakers desperately needed. Meanwhile, Horton-Tucker never gave them the same impact. In short, the Lakers broke up a proven formula for a version of the team that was simply worse. The downfall of the 2020 Lakers didn't happen overnight. It was a slow unraveling that began with one fateful decision. The front office, alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis, believed Russell Westbrook would be the missing piece. They thought adding a third star would ease the offensive load, protect against injuries, and keep LeBron fresh for deep playoff runs. But instead of elevating the roster, it destroyed the very foundation that made the Lakers champions. The blueprint in 2020 was simple but effective: LeBron and AD at the core, surrounded by gritty role players who defended, rebounded, and knocked down timely shots. It was depth, balance, and defense that carried them through the bubble, not just star power. Yet in one off-season, they abandoned that formula. Kuzma, KCP, Harrell, and eventually Caruso, all gone. In their place came Westbrook, who never fit. The spacing collapsed, the defense slipped, and the chemistry evaporated. By the time the Lakers realized their mistake, it was too late. Westbrook's first season was a disaster, and just a year and a half later, they were forced to trade him at the 2023 deadline, sacrificing even more draft capital just to get his contract off the books. What began as an attempt to add a superstar ended as one of the costliest moves in franchise history. And here's the part people often forget: LeBron and AD pushed for this move. For all we know, the front office might have leaned toward patience, believing the 2021 struggles were more about injuries and the shortened season than the roster itself. But the stars wanted another big name. That gamble dismantled a contender and left the Lakers scrambling for years. Fast forward to 2025, and the 2020 championship roster is unrecognizable. LeBron remains the lone survivor, still defying age, still carrying the franchise name. Anthony Davis? Traded in a blockbuster for Luka Doncic, one of the wildest trades in NBA and sports history. Kuzma and KCP were shipped to Washington in the Westbrook deal. Danny Green was traded for Dennis Schroeder, who never quite delivered what the team needed. JaVale McGee went to Cleveland for Alfonzo McKinney. Avery Bradley, Dwight Howard, and Rajon Rondo walked in free agency. Markieff Morris left the following summer. Alex Caruso, the ultimate glue guy, was let go over Talen Horton-Tucker, a decision that haunted them when TT underperformed and was eventually flipped for Patrick Beverley. Meanwhile, veterans like Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith never played another NBA minute after the bubble. Quinn Cook bounced in and out before being waived again. Jared Dudley retired after 2021. Piece by piece, the entire supporting cast vanished. And just like that, the 2020 Lakers, a team that once looked unstoppable, a team that dominated their way to a championship, completely disintegrated. What was left? One man, one constant, LeBron James. Everyone else from that magical run? Gone. That's the story of how the 2020 Lakers went from champions to forgotten in just a few short years.